Hi. Juanita was bad. The story itself is smart and has real potential. It feels like a family movie and like an opportunity to teach real lessons, which is what I'd like to do in my movies I make someday. But the perspective of the movie was so warped, a lot of the lines and situations felt so stereotypical to the point of being unnatural. By 15 minutes in, I could tell the writer was working off their own knowledge and not the genuine story of others. The book this movie is based on is called Dancing on the Edge of the Roof. It is written by a black woman. I haven't read the book, but I have no doubt it's better than its Netflix reincarnation. I know this because stories written from the correct perspective are consistently successful. Look at Shonda Rhimes, for example. She writes shows about people like her, for people like her, using people like her. She's raked in several Emmys, and her shows are staples in black culture and pop culture in general. Another good example is Barry Jenkins. Moonlight is a masterpiece. It was written by two black men and it won Best Picture and was one of the most relatable and beautiful stories from that year. These successes are not accidents. The reason people latch onto stories and films so religiously is because they connect with some part of themselves into that story. And when a writer is speaking from their own perspective, their own heart, the audience can't help but connect and maybe even learn from another human's perspective. It's when writers start to speak on other things, other people's perspectives, that things tend to get a little dicey. Take the movie Green Book, for example. Like Moonlight, the movie won Best Picture, but unlike Moonlight, no one liked this movie. Just like Juanita, it's not a bad story on paper. A black musician hires a white chauffeur for his tour across racism-ridden, separate but equal Southern America, and throughout the movie, the unlikely pair end up learning valuable lessons from each other along the way, becoming lifelong friends by the end of the movie. But the movie only touches on racism at a surface level. That's why most people left the theater feeling unfulfilled and even cheated. The movie was not nearly as smart as it claimed to be, and that god-awful fried chicken scene was just... oh my god, it was just torturous. So what happened? Three white guys got together and said, let's write a movie about segregation and homophobia in the 60s. And you guessed it, none of them are gay, none of them were discriminated against in the 60s, and none of them are black. The writers were telling a story they had only heard about, and due to this, a lot of authenticity was lost. The same thing happened in Juanita. Although the story itself was originated by a black woman, the adaptation became lost in translation due to the lackluster screenwriting by Roderick Spencer. The positive reviews of this movie commended its stereotypical perspective. Although there are stereotypes in the film, some viewers felt like those stereotypes were a small price to pay for getting to see the relatable story of a black mother wanting more out of life, more for herself. It was said many times throughout most reviews that Alfre Woodard is the savior of the film, and I completely agree. Without her skill and poise while acting, the film could have been astronomically worse. However, stereotypes in movies should be only used in two instances. 1. Social commentary, or 2. Comedy. Juanita is a comedy, but with poorly written jokes, all you're left with is cliches about coming together despite our differences, and stereotypes that leave the viewer feeling like their own story has been watered down. Instead of seeing characters with depth, layers, and complexity, they get a protagonist that offensively shows the viewers how the world perceives them. The story of Juanita is a necessary one. I think it's so important to tell a black woman's story, especially one so dedicated to her family. Like I said before, Juanita gave her entire self to everyone around her. The story of having her drop everything and go on a hilarious and touching adventure to find herself again could have made a groundbreaking film. With that said, good scripts come from life experience. You can't speak on someone's emotions, so why would you attempt to write them? Juanita fails at giving an in-depth look at the struggles facing black women, and instead tells a story loaded with half-baked guesswork. Go watch Juanita on Netflix and let me know what you think. You can read more specifics from this review on my Letterboxd account, and please, for the love of God, write from experience and be aware of your perspective. See ya.